Unions and some activist allies are billing their showdown in Chicago as the American people versus the Wall Street bankers. One problem, the event they are protesting against does not star at least the bigwig Wall Street companies. Rather, it's small and mid-sized banks. Jim Carr from the National Community Reinvestment Coalition joining us now for Happy Hour. Jim, thanks so much. Okay, I was trying to figure out the American Bankers Association. This bankers, and they said that they represent banks with assets of $125 million or less, but I don't know if that doesn't mean that JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, are not members of this as well. So all this controversy about who this group actually represents, what do you say?
Well, really, it's important to focus on what's happening there, and it is the American public saying enough is enough with the banking industry. Most people have focused on the $800 billion bailout package, but the truth is there are trillions of dollars being extended in loans, investment, and guarantees by the Federal Reserve, by the FDIC, by the American taxpayer. And what are the banks doing in return for all this money? They're not increasing lending to promote job ownership. They're not addressing the foreclosure crisis. What they are doing is sending armies of lobbyists to Washington to argue against what's in the best interest of the American taxpayer. And at the same time, they're planning to offer themselves the largest payout of bonuses in American history. And the American public is saying enough is enough.
Amen to that, but you know, we've got to call you out too. I think you used to be in Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, and I think that's also what these people are protesting. It's not just the Wall Street banks, but it's the entire idea that we've nationalized trillion-dollar companies that you yourself used to work for.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair commentary. I think the fact is that everyone knows that the regulation of the financial system for all institutions was woefully deficient, and that needs to be fixed. And one of the things that people are protesting about, and our organization, NCRC, is right there, National Community Reinvestment Coalition, is saying it's time now to regulate the financial system so that all of those institutions, including the one that I used to work for, works better on behalf of working America.
Well, sir, go ahead and take that one step further. So, you know, obviously, by the nature of the name of your group, you're interested in taking money from the government and making sure some of that money gets to people who may need help borrowing money to buy homes, I assume. Is that right?
No, absolutely not. Our group is solely focused on trying to make sure that banks serve all communities and all people with fair, safe, and sound products. In fact, we argued against all the reckless, outrageous behavior that financial institutions were pursuing and asked the regulators to put an end to that stuff, that subprime risky loans, the shadow market of derivatives and things of that nature that weren't regulated properly. And we're asking for the same thing, safe and sound regulated financial markets.
Jim, that's what I was saying exactly. I mean, none of this, the Reinvestment Act, it hurt poor people, it hurt minorities. I mean, there shouldn't be this push. Sure, it should be that everyone should get loans fairly. There shouldn't be any discrimination on the basis of your religion, your sexual orientation, and et cetera, but do not push these type of loans on your constituency because you're hurting them in the long run.
Absolutely. We totally agree with that. But one of the things that's important to recognize is that the law that you mentioned, the Community Reinvestment Act, in fact, according to the Federal Reserve Board, showed that only 6% of those loans to low and moderate income households that were the risky loans that have gone to foreclosure, 6% were actually a result of CRA. Most of it, 95%, had nothing to do with CRA. And what we're saying is if they had been following the rules of CRA, we would not have the foreclosure crisis we have today.
It wouldn't be a crisis if we just enforced the laws and kicked the people out of their houses and not have bailed out the corrupt banks that are now kicking them out of their houses.
Jim,
well, you know, it's funny.
I'm sorry,
funny.
We're out of time.
Oh.
Cody always does that to guests.
Sorry,
right.
I'm upset.
You have to invite me
doesn't let
back.
you respond. We will. We'll have you back. Jim Carr, thank you very much for joining us for Happy Hour.
My
On
pleasure.
tap, folks, how would you like your friends and neighbors to not only know how much